is on their best, and even then we do make mistakes. All right, so it's
Yeah.
recording now. Okay, so we have a lot of students, a lot for this course. So we have like, I don't know, 4, 5, 6, I don't know how many students in this one, and EME 508 also has a few, which is good news. Now, both assignments A and B, 1A and 1B, have similar length. Now, I am not anal about anything. If you want to have a party and don't want to submit an assignment until 15th of February, I'm happy with it. Remember, I have to probably submit marks by the 15th of February, so I have to see assignments relatively earlier, like at least a day earlier. So I'm not really that fast about when people submit. So you don't have to give me certificates or whatever. However, if something happens to you and you don't get the certification from the doctor or something, and then you need extension for 4 months, then you might as well have a certificate, because within the course, within the length of a summer semester, I don't care. But beyond this, university will not accept any extensions unless they are covered with some sort of justification. So I've done that, I've said that. So dates I don't care about, and I don't care about the length, but I wanted to check the length just to see how big is the expectation, the conceptual expectation of this assignment. So altogether it is part 1 and part B, so A and B parts, altogether are half of 508 altogether. So it's pretty much in word length or word count, it's the same as 508. So that's something. It tells us something. Anyway, so Stephanie, did you actually read the whole thing? Do you have an idea what to do? Or do you have before I tell you my answers, I would like to know where you are sitting with this assignment, because you might actually understand it better than I do.
Okay, so as far as I've got it, does it necessarily have to take place in a school, or
No.
in the top line it mentions childcare centres, art galleries, whatever?
It can also be in
So,
your head. It can also be on the
okay,
website. It can also
yeah,
be
so it doesn't,
imaginary or on the website. You can create a website.
okay, great. Okay, I was just sort of a bit lost as to what sort of issues you might have be looking for that we have encountered, so.
Yeah, the problem with the old Master of Education is that it was created for people who were, I mean, I don't know whether summer semester was back then when the MED was actually created. So
Yeah,
consequently, you have these weird things like asking you to go to work during the summer vacation, you know.
yeah,
So there are these confusions there. But other than that, I mean, so the MEDI has solved it to a degree. This one has still got these obstacles, but that's all right. So we're sort of loose about it. We don't really care. It could be planning an
okay,
initiative. It could be, imagining one or whatever, or even conducting it with your anecdotal information or thinking with your colleagues, and basically collecting information from your colleagues and reporting as information as anecdotal, not necessarily, because we can't do the ethics and we don't want to go get into trouble. So everything which is reported but not collected data, we just because it's not covered by ethics, we just call it anecdotal reported information. I mean, you're not
okay.
here to change the
So,
world. We're just trying to complete this assignment.
yeah, so it says the task is to design, to identify and articulate an issue or problem and plan a strategy to address it. So that could be something as simple as lesson planning problems or an issue with a student in a school or
Something like that.
something like that,
Yeah.
or
I would.
anything like with a broader scope, or.
Yeah. So basically the idea is, so before because just to warn you, what I will be teaching you in this unit, while this unit looks a little bit easy, it's not. Um,
Yeah,
and what I will be teaching you, and I don't know whether you're part of MED or you're just some students just take a unit with us over the summer semester, which then is counted to some other degree they do somewhere else. So I don't know. But what I will
yeah,
be making sure is that you come out from here with some research skills. Okay,
okay,
so it looks cool and easy, but it is not gonna be. It will be easy, but it will not be just like talking to your mother. There will be some systematicity here. So I'll be
yeah, yeah,
teaching that.
okay, beautiful.
So
So
you will
I have
see.
to come up with a theoretical problem and discuss why it's an issue. and such, and go through those 5 dot points, and then go to like research and investigate and collaborate with a professional about how to resolve this issue.
And overall, so basically overall presentation, so you've got to report how you would have done it, right?
Yes.
And the second assignment, how does it differ from first one?
Yeah,
To
so
read
that
about.
would be, okay, so that's,
Oh my God, this is so messy. I would just suggest we just do it differently. Description of a particular problem. I mean, you still have to read. You can't just describe a problem.
yeah.
Where's the literature review in assignment 1A?
So it's in
Report on
part
discussion.
B, isn't it?
This is just talking to people. Describe the issue problem. How can you describe it just from your head? Present a brief introduction to illustrate organizational setting. You can't do it just using your head. This is all just talking.
Yeah, so the literature review and the research doesn't come until part B.
Well, the bad person produced that assignment. No wonder that, I mean, this can't be. All right. So we're gonna do a little bit, we're not gonna worry about assignment 1A and 1B. Do they differ yeah, they do differ in times, right?
Yes.
So assignment B is gonna be submitted by Friday.
They're both due this Friday.
Oh, okay. So let's treat them as one. How about if we treated them as one? Because otherwise we're gonna go crazy.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So what I suggest we do as follows. There's a particular method I have for doing these things. So even if, do you have a particular idea of a context where you would like to imagine and plan your initiative, or do you want to be inspired?
I'm used to working in a primary school setting, so I think I'll stick with what I know.
Yeah.
And go there.
Primary is what years?
Reception to year 7 or foundation to 7.
Okay.
So children who are 5 up to the age of 12.
Okay. So where are you? In what state?
In South Australia, in Adelaide.
Mm-hmm. All right. So first of all, before you actually, so the description of the context, okay? Context of the problem. So here it is. We're just going to do it a little bit research-wise so that you get something out of this unit. We're not going to describe anything, because every time you describe something, you actually interpreted it. You will have no choice but agree with me on the fact, because we just don't have time for it, and I'm not going to put you through reading. So you just have to agree with me that every time we open our mouth, we actually do it with a bias.
Yes.
And one of the reasons why we do stupid things, because we didn't give ourselves a chance to think about what we're saying and what we're doing, right? So the theory, the role of theory, or the role of research is to actually unpack the logics that bind our words or our sentences and see how tight they are theoretically, or how tight they are logically really, and how much in it is actually myths and rumor that we have acquired, or let's call it a mess we have acquired through our practices and through our life. So for example, one of the messes that I was just riding the bicycle, and one of the typical messes that teachers have, they believe that meaning is in words. But if I took them through particular logic of thinking, they would know, they would see that they actually knew they always knew that meaning is not in words, but I would have to take them through an exercise, and that exercise I can devise because I have theoretical tools. So coming back to the point, you can't describe any context of any problem, because you don't know what's a problem until you actually have some tools to actually identify a problem. And to give you a favorite proverb in English, anyone who has a hammer thinks that everything they see is a nail.
Yes.
Okay, so typically I just had some, not wars, but very interesting conversations on professional networks where a linguist from Holland and the linguist from Germany are absolutely convinced that that what they said was true. I speak 5 or 6 languages, 3 of them in a semi-native way, not Polish, because Polish is my native language, but all the other ones I acquired. And I just gave them an insight from, and they wouldn't listen because, they are linguists. They know, they've seen words, they've seen grammar, and for them, they've got this hammer, which is called grammar, and everything is a nail.
Yeah.
You know, they can't see past
Yeah.
that. So the problem is there. So basically what I would like you to do if you want to describe a context or a problem, I would like you to dig into some of the either policies or some of the, because it will be assignment 1 and 2 in one, I mean assignment 1A and B in one, okay? I would like you to
Yes.
describe a particular vision you have, how things should be. So maybe
Okay.
you could focus on things like say maybe the, one of the capabilities you could check, you know, this generic or whatever they call general capabilities, maybe you could have a look at them and think to yourself how they actually what the picture should look like, you know. So for
Yeah.
example, what a particular capability actually, or maybe all of them, what they mean,
Yes.
what implication does this have to the experiences that we should provide for students,
Mhm.
and maybe how the environment, how we should actually, what attributes the environment, the learning environment should have in
Yeah.
order for this general capability to have a chance, in order for us to actually put in place or devise proper strategies. So as you can
Yeah.
see, straight away, we are having a framework for identifying a problem, because
Yes.
we have a policy document that says curriculum is outcomes. That's true, but I'm just pushing knowledge on you. I'm not sure where you come from, so I'm just basically brainwashing you as I go. But
That's
but
okay.
yeah, you will live with it. Um, so curriculum has mini outcomes, or those sort of little outcomes, but all outcomes are hanging on the generic capabilities or general capabilities, those higher order skills, right? They are the key
Yeah.
things. Everything hangs off of that. So they're very important. So we want our students to be, you know, critical participants in a knowledge society. We want them to actually, so you can pick one of the or two or all of them generic capabilities. I would just
Yeah.
focus on a couple of them. I wouldn't stretch myself too much. And then I would ask myself, so what does this capability say we want students to do? You know, then I would say, what kind of experiences we need to provide for the students in order for this job of this capability to be done.
Yeah.
And then what kind of attributes should the learning environment have so that we can provide those experiences so that the job of a capability is
Yeah.
done. And that
Okay.
would be basically part one, and I don't know, that's gonna take you 500 words, right?
Yeah.
It will.
Yeah.
So the question is then, as a second point, I'm not sure whether this is 5 points of this on this assignment, but the second step that you do is, so you have what should be. You can even give it a title, what should be. You know, there's something like, and then what is. And you might actually use the framework that you have just devised about what should be, and have a look at your particular context, whether one class or whether a whole semester, you know, however you
Yeah.
want to break it down, and have a look what is. Right?
Okay.
So basically, whether the
Yeah.
job of this capability, which it is whatever the curriculum says, whether the experiences you provide for the students are actually, or someone else provides for the students, actually match what you have devised in section 1, and whether the
Mhm.
attributes of the learning environment you create actually correspond with the ones you devise in the section 1.
Part A.
You got
Yeah.
it? And you will have
Yeah,
a
I think so.
pretty nice framework now to identify the problem.
Okay. So part A of this site is pretty much saying what are the general capabilities? Say how can we? What's the best way to incorporate these?
But it's not
Yeah.
what's the best way. What we're gonna look at is exactly, you can word it this way: how can we ensure that we actually implement them? That's the real question,
Yeah.
right? And I gave you a framework, and I will put that framework on as a on as this video. I'm creating a video now, so that video will go on YouTube, but I will attach to the
Yeah.
link, which I will provide on the Learn line. I will attach a PowerPoint with this framework, so you can actually refer back to it. So it's going to help you to actually have a systematic way of going about identifying a problem. So the first one was what the first question we had was what should be. Now we have what is, And now you can say, well, what is the problem? Which one of these you actually want to focus? Now you can see that there is some mismatch, but because there's always a mismatch. It's just
Yes.
part of life. So you can actually think if one of those capabilities, and I would whisper to you which one is the most important one, which is anything to do with emotional and social aspects of students'
Yes.
environment. They are the most important one because learning is actually depends on emotions.
Mhm.
And that reminds me, I'll send you a paper by Damasio and Imordino Young on this one. You need to read it if you want to do something like that.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna send it to you in any case. You can always give it to someone you hate because it's such a wonderful paper, and they should once they read it, they'll have to implement it. So
So part A is what should be, and part B is what is, where I talk about
no,
my
no, 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 no.
experience in the class.
We're basically I'm mixing one and A and B together because part.
Okay.
Just wait. Let us before we actually say part A, part B. I just want to actually first agree on how we will structure this assignment, and then we can see which one is part A, part B. Because I don't think in terms of part A, part B. I think in terms of methodology of research.
Yes.
So we will just do that. I just have to open for myself an empty page so I can draw, so I can see what I did with you. Okay. So now we have. So what should be we've done? So it's the first section. It's the first point, which is what when they say here on the you can see it on the screen of the blackboard. You can see description of the context of the problem. So rather than just write as my mother would, but my mother is not paid to be a teacher, so I'm teaching you how to do it systematically. So the first one we do is what should be, and you here devise this
Yes.
vision according to the methodology I just described. Then the description of a particular issue, it says, but what I'm saying is you can't describe it. What you can only do is to say what is. And therefore you use the
Mhm.
framework from one and you actually look at your own context, whether a particular class or semester, and you can see whether what you've devised, what you have described as what should be is in what is.
Yes.
And then as part three, you will say, well, where is the gap? Which gap? What kind of gap would you like to focus on?
Okay. And how can we get what is to be what should be? So how can we turn point? How can we make point two join up to the expectations of point one?
Well, because the point one in point one we have analyzed, we have looked for the link between what's the job of each of the general capability, what experiences therefore need to be provided. You'll just write them out. You will see what the policy says, and you will see from the literature, and you will yourself try to interpret what experiences for the students need to be provided in order for those capabilities to be actually accounted for, and then you will
Yeah.
deduce from it what kind of attributes of the environment should be put in place in order for these
Okay.
capabilities to actually, in order for you to be able to provide those experiences for the students so that the job of a capability can be done. So that's what should be. And then you follow the same framework and the same questions, and you have already discussed it. We have 500 words written how it should be, and then you look at what should be and you say, do the ticks, do I do this, do I do this, do I do this, do I do this, and you will see where the problem might be or where you can improve, and that will be
Yes.
the gaps. And then
Yep.
you will for identifying the problem, what you will say, which aspect of the gap you want to focus for your initiative.
Okay. So that's point three.
Yeah.
Yep. And
And
then
then you
point
can talk to your
four.
friends and you tell them that's what you want to do. I would strongly discourage you from talking about it. But it's if it says you because if people don't have tools, so we have to devise a tool now. So what you might do now, if conversation with key stakeholders is part here of the assignment, now when you've identified the gap and you also identify what should be and what isn't in place, you might actually take the questions that you have
Okay.
actually and go to your friends, colleagues, and say, look, that's how it should be, but that's what is. So how do you think I should go about? What do you think should be a suggestion? How have you seen these things being amended or attended to, what can we do? How can it be done?
So
And
just
then you
looking for their
report on the
suggestions.
discussion. Now, if you don't have any friends, colleagues, or anyone to talk about it, just read the literature, a couple of papers.
Okay. Yeah. When you say colleagues, does university peers count as colleagues who do the
Anything
same
that
course?
moves and talks.
Yep. Okay. Beautiful. Easy. Okay. So that's all. So virtually we're combining part B into the 4 points of part A.
Now let's have a look at, pretty much, because we have you, in order to actually identify the context of the problem and so on, we had to look at the policies and we had to actually look at some of the texts about it. But let me have a look. So what's the second one saying? You should select 5 to 10 readings on educate to inform your thinking. Readings should relate to an
So
area.
that fits in with point 4.
So that would be for point 4, right? So which is like conversation with people. So what you do some readings about how people implement a particular capability, and you can have a look. You can have a look whether what they say they do actually links with what should be. Because I will assure you that sometimes people write and publish things that actually are not that good. So just because you will read 5 or 10 readings on attending to the specific gap that you have identified.
Okay, instead of doing 5 or 10 readings, can we make a few of those colleagues and cut it down to maybe like 4 readings or 3 readings and 4 colleagues or something?
No, 4 is, you can have 4 colleagues and 5 readings.
Yep, that's okay.
No, you have to read.
Yep, so definitely 5 readings and some colleagues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because as your teacher, I don't really care how long is your assignment. I don't really care how well you write. I might teach you or might not teach you how to write in this unit. But what I care is that you read. Because those readings, when you don't learn what these people say in those readings, what you learn is how to read people. And the stuff you have written in point 1, which is how things should be, is your Bible.
Okay.
Okay, so this is research skills. The what should be is your 10 commandments. And everything, you not only compare with it what is, and you don't only as a result are able to identify the gap, but then when you read other people, how other people went about fixing the particular thing you're looking at, you're gonna look at those readings through the lenses of your point 1.
Yes.
And that's called critical reading.
Critical
Because
reading.
point one gave you a framework for reading everything.
Yeah.
Critical doesn't mean killing or debunking or whatever. What it means is to have independent criteria against which you can assess your own thinking, your own practice, or someone else's text. And that's why we see how clean is everything. That's why I told you we're gonna do a little bit. It's gonna be easy, but it has to be systematic. That's why point 1 was so important, and that framework I gave you, because the framework will give you the Bible for identifying the problem and also identifying problems in the readings. So I need you to read 5 readings at least, so that you can actually get a bit of practice in looking for crap. It's gonna go on the internet.
Being critical, yeah.
You've got to remember that just because it's published, it wasn't written by God.
Yes.
And in fact, there's a lot of actually nonsense in the literature, so you have to know how to sift through it, and that's the exercise. All right, so that's pretty much the assignment.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
All right. So we're done, Stephanie. You happy?
Yes, I think that makes much more sense. Thank you.
Okay,
and you said it doesn't have to be submitted this Friday. It can be submitted before the 15th of February.
It can be well, it has to be submitted before the 15th of February, because later on is I have to submit grades.
Yes, that's okay.
So come something like 15th or 17th of February, the game is over. So you should submit it.
But it doesn't have to be in by this Friday.
No, it doesn't have to be this Friday, but I would advise you that you submit it sometime in January, and then it still gives you a month to submit assignment 2.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much for your
All right.
help.
You're welcome. And I'm just gonna close this movie because I have another issue to discuss with Darren. You're most welcome.